You all were very good members and submitted your scores. Stella's going to go through the averaging, or she may want to send them in front of everybody.
Not yet.
But things are pretty straightforward on that. I will tell you that everybody submitted scores except Lynn Martina, who told Stella that she doesn't have time to be on the RAC committee. So the commissioner of that district will find another replacement. But at this point, as far as I'm concerned, we have 4 out of 5. That's enough of an average to work off of, so we're going to move forward.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Yep.
Well, no, Lynn didn't do one.
She was 6. Right?
Oh, she was.
So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, that's right. We have,
yeah, we have 6 total.
Yeah. All right. So 5 out of 6. That's
Close enough.
Close. It's still close enough. My averaging is still close enough. So I'll let you go through the scoring. That's where we're at. I will tell you that the scoring looked pretty normal to me. We can talk about it. The steps, though, is to get the county commission to see the scoring, get them to approve the scoring, and then we can open the portal up for people to get submit applications. And that's really, I'll be honest, ladies and gentlemen, that's the goal that I'm trying to get to. So, because we need to get started on seeing what people want to submit.
We're going to talk about any of the changes in this.
The needs assessment?
Yeah.
Sure. Anything
I
I want to
only have
ask
one
or
comment.
discuss? This is your committee, so I think now would be the time if you want to, if anybody has any questions or comments on the needs assessment. Yes, sir.
Under tourism, recreation, fishing, and seafood, you have listed bike trails, and I think that's wonderful. I just would rather just call it trails, which would include bike and any other kind of trails,
That's fine.
or trails and walkways. You know, I just didn't want to limit it. I think it's
Okay, I see.
viable criteria,
Mm-hmm.
and just didn't want to limit it.
Okay.
What page?
Page 4.
Oh,
Oh, I see, bikes. Yeah. Just call them activity trails, something like that?
yes.
Okay.
And one other comment on that same page, I don't have them all. Public waterfront access, including public parking. If it just said public waterfront or facility access, that would kind of include parking.
Yeah, I think the reason why the word facility isn't in there is because you could have just a beach. You could have just a, wouldn't necessarily have any facilities
Theoretically,
whatsoever.
that's a facility also.
I guess you're right, but if you had no facilities like restrooms or anything, I mean, we could put the word facility in there.
I just thought that parking was redundant because.
Oh, I see.
Because access means sort of parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess from some federal grants experience I've had before, they always make that distinction between your waterfront facilities
You're in charge, I
and
just want to bring it up.
Yeah, I think we're
parking
okay
is always
with
like
all
a different kind of infrastructure need than.
I know with FERDAP, parking is something different, when
Yeah.
it gets scoring, so
Okay.
we'll leave that one as is.
And then, go ahead, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, just one comment. On page 2, we want to restore drinking water barriers. Page 2 under restoration and protection.
Yeah, I did see your comment. Unfortunately, the reason why it wasn't included is because potable water needs are not sort of, part of any eligible activity that I could find that they would fit within. What we've tried to do in the past, I've seen other counties try to make a stretch to the category of infrastructure projects that would benefit the economy, but you literally have to show the economic growth analysis as a result of that potable water upgrade. And in general, if it's just for maintenance or everyday, utility needs, they have not been amenable to that. So I didn't want to put it in there and mislead anybody into thinking that that was going to be an eligible activity, because all accounts point to it will not be.
Yeah, this was something that happened in the mid-80s in East Point to protect the seafood houses and boats that would be parked in that area.
What was something that happened?
The barrier was installed in the mid-80s.
We're talking about two different things. She said potable water. You're not talking about potable
No,
water.
I'm sorry, I thought you said
breakwater.
barriers to
Breakwater.
potable water.
Breakwater.
I apologize.
Breakwater barrier.
Breakwaters, yes,
That
okay.
improves the structures in that area, all the boats that are parked there. It protects them. Sometimes it gets really rough.
Okay,
areas.
I
So
see
that
what
was-
you mean.
Yeah. It's a
Right, and I will tell you that it's already, it's permitted actually for the roads for the redredging the East Point Channel, the permit that we already have in hand, that the Corps of Engineers got, includes rebuilding that breakwater in a marsh habitat. So I'll tell you right now that it's already permitted as a marsh habitat.
Okay.
And yeah, that would actually fall right under estuarine habitat,
Yes, it
those
would.
breakwaters.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us build up just a breakwater anymore, because we did get good news, bad news. They said you can't just have a break, well, we did not have a disposal site for East Point. So we wanted to use the breakwater as a disposal site. And they said, well, you can if you convert it into a marsh environment. You just can't pump it up there and put a wall around it. So that's, in fact, it's already permitted. So in our lifetime, the next time that East Point's dredged will be a marsh habitat. So I think we're covered for that project.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, because I didn't give an intro on kind of where we're at with the needs assessment, I know we have a benefit of the general audience here as well. The needs assessment was revised. This is version 1.3. So this is the third revision. It is posted on the website at franklincountyrestore.com. It was distributed via email. So, and then now you have the hard copy. So if we want to make that one or two more changes that are mentioned today, that can be done pretty easily.
Okay.
Just need a consensus of the board. Yes.
Just one more thing, on there where it says Carabel, that should be 2 R's.
Oh, you're right.
Some misspelling, which page?
It's on
Just like
page
our
2.
school.
Yeah, down at the bottom, both ways.
We have a school principal reading these things.
You said that's supposed to be 2 R's, not C,
C-A-R-R.
but the 2 L's are correct?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, yeah, all right. There's actually 3 of those, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, we need to fix that for sure. Okay. Okay, no problem. Those are all easy. Any other questions or comments before we move on?
All of mine are here.
Good, okay. Well, moving on to the next step, the selection criteria is the next step in the whole overall multi-year plan development process. As Alan said, we consider now we receive 5 out of 5 scores because Lynn Martina was an official withdrawal. We now only have 5 members, so we receive scoring from all 5 members.
Well, I mean, she's a withdrawal, but I'm sure that this commissioner of that area will want to put somebody else on there.
Right, but they're not going to get to submit scores.
No, you're right. Okay, so I say you're counting 5 out of 5. I got you.
we can call it 5 out of 6,
Right,
and just
that's
that's
fine.
good, you know. But and then, like I said, the plan that we talked about last meeting was that all the category scores are going to be averaged across every submittal. In this case, 5. So, and I guess that was kind of my point: is we're not going to average them by 6, we're going to average them by 5. And then the individual criteria scores also were averaged across all 5 submittals. I left a little box underneath every single one that said other, and it was kind of like a fill-in. I didn't have any members submit any others. So on the spreadsheet that you'll see here, you'll see those just deleted because nobody filled any of those in. So, yes, ma'am.
Pardon me if everybody else knows this, but I know because this is the first time I've attended any of these meetings. Could you go over briefly what's the score sheet about? What did the score sheet score?
It'll be scoring the applications once we get to that point.
Okay.
This will be the guidelines for how people judge whatever applications we get in.
Okay.
Yeah, basically Treasury requires that the projects are not just simply chosen arbitrarily. They want you to describe how they were selected and that you come up with some sort of selection criteria. And so these are the selection criteria. And we'll kind of go through them one by one and you'll kind of see. Also posted on the website as well.
Okay.
For any of the public members.
Just to rank those as a weighted score.
And then the plan that we talked about at the last meeting was that the average totals from this will then be recommended to the Board of County Commissioners at their next meeting, and they will bless it or whatever they choose to do with it from that point on. So this being the first page, I think you guys can see that. If not, I will zoom in. There we go. Is that okay, or do you want me to zoom out one more so you can see the whole
I'd
thing?
zoom out, say, too, the whole lot. I think people
All right.
Perfect.
Okay. So first category, restoration, protection, natural resources. You can see the individual scores have been posted up there. First and foremost, if you're glancing at your scores and you think I did something wrong, definitely tell me that was not my score, you did that all wrong, you typed that in wrong. But I think I transposed them correctly because I triple checked them all and I had somebody else check them as well. So, but you know, that said, if there is a mistake, definitely let me know. So those are the individual scores. Again, they were just straight average. So across the top of all the scores that were submitted, that comes up with an average of 17%. And then for the next one, again, the straight average is 18. Moving on down the line, 21, 18, and then 26. And that adds up to 100.
So let me understand. So when we get to the set of projects, then the committee will look at, so on restoration protection, the maximum number of points they can give is 17 points.
Correct. That's correct. Any questions on this slide? I'm going to go to the more detailed criteria next. Okay. So just breaking it down, each criteria category had some criteria that went along with it. This one had 2, and then so if you allocated 25 points to that category, or 25%, we broke that down into a number of points, or again, you could use a percentage. And each member submitted their point breakdown within the 25, or how many points they allocated for that category. And then those were all averaged. So for example, in the first one, you had a 15, 2.5, a 10, a 10, and a 5, and that comes out to an 8.5. Apologize for that. I was meant to get rid of all those zeros. So that was a little bit clearer. So that first one is an 8.5. And then the next one is also an 8.5 once averaged. So the total average of the category was 17%. So the 2 sub-criteria should add up to 25%, or 17%, and I do 8.5, 8.5. Okay. And then moving on down to workforce development, same thing. 18% was the group's average, and when I averaged the individual criteria across all 5 submittals, came up with a 6.4 on the first one, a 9 on the second one, and a 2.6 on the last one. And again, that adds up to 18. I'm realizing now I should have brought you all copies of this. I apologize. But I will email it to you for sure. So we'll go on to the next one. Any questions on this one so far? Okay. For these 2, I'll just let you kind of glance at those, and I'll talk a little bit about them, but again, the same thing. Stormwater, we had a 10, 10, 10, 13, 5, came up to a 9.6. Technology access, 5, 5, 5, 4, 5, came to 4.8, etc. So that one added up to 21, from 9.6 to 4.8 is 6.6, and that equals 21. And then on coastal flood protection, disaster planning and recovery got a 6.4 average. Your flood protection, flood mitigation got a 7 average. Emergency services got a 4.6 average. Again, all adding up to 18. So, and again, these are the max points that a project can receive. So let's say a project was 1,000,000% designed to provide flood protection. In theory, it's probably going to get 7 points in that particular category. Now, it's not going to get a whole lot of points for, habitat restoration, up in the further one, because it doesn't do that. So that's kind of how this is structured. And then the last one, tourism, and then we also have the bonus criteria in tourism. We have 5 subcategories actually in that category. So you can see the averages, 3.7 for the first one, 7 even for the second one, 6.2, 6.8, and 2.3, and that all adds up to 26%. So certainly 26%, at 26%, tourism received the highest average. And then going on to the bonus criteria, I kind of set that for you at 20 points, and then you were just to allocate within the 20 points you were given, just to keep the scale proper. And so most folks did a 10 and a 10, or 15 and a 5, and then, yes, sir.
I don't think you can just call that tourism, because it's tourism and seafood.
Yeah, you're correct. I just abbreviated.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's tourism, and it's actually, I left some words off in there. It's promotion and or enhancement of tourism, recreational fishing, and or seafood. So the whole thing is definitely a little bit more inclusive of other activities. And then so on your bonus criteria, public benefit got 12, leveraging got 8. And again, on the leveraging, one of the things is if they brought like a 100% match to the table on a project, they'd probably get all 8 points. So if they only brought like a 20-25% match, they're looking at 4 or 5 points or something along those lines.
So there'd be a sliding scale.
It'd be a sliding scale.
Yeah, all these would be a sliding scale, right?
Yes,
Your
that's right.
the score's judgment on how well they met it.
It is a judgment.
Okay, so these other two guys.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the max score, exactly. It can be anything in between, from 0 to 8. Okay. Any questions so far? Let's see what we have next. Okay, I just provided a little summary breakdown here. Those last few slides, it showed you, everybody's individual scores and how that averaged, because I just wanted to make sure I didn't get anybody's scores wrong. And then these last couple slides literally just show the average, the final average score. So then this would be the final recommendation on the street average to the county commission, which I believe is you say that was the 24th?
They say commission is the 21st.
21st. So at that time, we'll bring this score sheet completed, averaged to the county commission.
Let me just say something sort of benefit people here. All right, so, some of us may be thinking, oh my gosh, the Appalachian Bay is suffering all of this, these threats, the lack of water flow, the lack of a substrate in the bay, oyster production is down. Man, are we gonna look bad, are we, the RAC committee, gonna look bad for having, having tourism rated higher than, production of Appalachian Bay? Well, there are other pots of money out there, and one of the other pots of money that the county specifically, and I say this on behalf of the county, is what we call our consortium money. That's pot 3 money. It's money the state of Florida is assisting us in getting allocated, and the county commission said that that they want to use the consortium money for the main impetus of oyster restoration, and that's $10 million by itself. So there's a chunk of money that I want you all to feel comfortable that we're not abandoning the seafood industry. There's a chunk of money out there that's going to go to that component, because what we're doing is we're targeting the consortium because we're trying to force state agencies to contribute to that program. So we're putting in the consortium, which the governor controls, and so hoping that he will then recognize the importance of this and contribute money to there.
But that includes oyster recovery.
Well, it does, but I mean, but if you look at our scoring, you see where our local RAC committee has said 26% tourism is the highest component. But I want to give you comfort that there's another source of money out there, Eric, that's going to go to oyster
Well, I
recovery.
understand that, but what I'm saying is, doesn't that include tourism, recreational fishing, and seafood? And then under that block, there is a line that says provides for oyster recovery.
Yes.
So that's included in that.
It is included,
26%.
but right. But it's just that if you were thinking, why isn't it the biggest amount? It's because I'm comfortable with this because there's other ways we're getting money to the oyster industry.
Right, but it is wasn't it the highest number in all categories? In our criteria?
You're right, but since it includes more than just oyster recovery.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Alan, in the Okaloosa County process, they had a line item in the county's application, not treasury. Are there other sources of funds that are available for this particular project? And that's where you list those. And you might point out that yes, by putting it in the matrix does not make it ineligible, even though there are other funds available for it.
And I've had that question before, and I've seen that in the Okaloosa County application. I wasn't quite sure how they were utilizing that response to that, because you could go either way.
Because 30% of their application process was subjective, and so the committee members used that particular criteria to give it their subjective rating. They had 70% was numeric and 30% was subjective,
Right.
and so each individual member took that into consideration when they ranked individual projects.
But are you saying they looked at having other sources of money to get the project done
If
as a
we-
bad thing?
No, I'm saying that they looked at it as a good thing if there were no other sources of money.
Right, okay.
So, in
But
other
with the
words-
leveraging, that's sort of contradictory. You see what I'm getting at?
Right.
So if you have the two contradicting criteria, it kind of confuses the applicants
But
into.
leverage implies that you do have the funds. Are there other sources of funds available for this? Doesn't necessarily mean you have the funds.
That's true, that is true, okay. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting question that I had seen before, and I just wasn't quite sure where to go with it, or how to use it, or how beneficial it would be, so that's why I didn't include it in this
Well,
one.
their process, they didn't want to fund a lot of things that there were other funds available. Or
Right.
easily available funds.
And I saw that, you know, with utilities, again, going back to the potable water and things like that. In Escambia County, for example, they said straight away that they weren't going to fund anything that was an enterprise fund or utility type fund.
Right, and that's the same rationale. No water systems, no sewer systems.
Right.
Now, I know I mentioned this last time, and I'll just remind you again, we do have, although the criteria is set there now, but we do have the Tourist Development Council with about 1.6
Right.
a year.
And maybe some of these applicants will have some matching money from leverage money from there, right?
Right, and the Tourist Development Council does the first three things in that, or the first two things in that block. And then, we've just, funded some parking out there on St. George Island. A little parking facility, only about 50,000, 51,000. So
Yeah, I'll be honest, Mayor, I'm not sure. I mean, I know the TDC allocated the money. We now have a little controversy because the county commission did not abandon the peddler issue. So therefore, the parking spaces are not going to be open to the public necessarily, so we may not use the money.
Oh, okay. But we have set a precedence now for
Yes.
funding parking
Yes.
facilities.
But we, yeah, it's a great idea. We appreciate the offer, and but you may get the money back.
All right.
And that is a good point. I mean, if an entity like the TDC or the TDC itself had a project and let's say it was, you know, $100,000 or more, something like that, and they were just short 20 or 40,000 in their budget, then Restore, you know, they can make an application and say that they have an 80% match to bring to the table, and that might be pretty attractive because then everybody gets to share in the goal of that project. Okay, what do we have next? I think that's actually all we have for today. I thank you guys very much for getting your scores back to me. Like I said, I think we did okay on the averages, no big surprises there. So unless there are any other questions or discussion, might be a pretty short meeting tonight.
Yeah, so the goal is, I mean, I feel pretty confident, you know, we have a pretty good average. Get the county commission to look at this thing, say they support this, because it really, you know, I want to see what projects are out there. I want to get started on that, because that's going to be a 2 or 3 month period. We're really trying to get this thing into Treasury by November, if we can, because it's going to take 3 or 4 months for them to review things, and now we're in 2018, and we just want to.
Exactly.
Will the county county commissioners have the capability of changing scores?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's the final say.
they could send it back to you and say redo the whole thing. They could.
No, individually, unilaterally.
Oh, sure, they could. I mean, because the board is ultimately responsible for
The RAC committee
this.
is recommending.
So they could take, you know, your 18% average, and they could say, we want that to be 19, or we want that to be 20,
Or zero.
Or zero.
or 0.
I mean, I don't really, well, I shouldn't say, they don't know any of this. They haven't been involved in this process at this point, Bill. I don't know how much input
Are
they
you
want.
going to suggest that the committee members be at the 21st county commission?
I hadn't made it, you're certainly probably going to be there. I mean, until we had the meeting tonight, I wasn't sure whether we would be ready to go there, but yeah, it's going to be it'll be on my report on the 21st.
Do you all want me to send you an email out to let you know that the 21st there'll be an update? Okay. We will do that, and then, kind of like Alan said, we'll just have to go from there, from the 21st to see what happens, but definitely the next step and the next goal is to go ahead and get that project portal open, see what everybody throws at us, get it scored, and this discussion has been had previously, and Bill, you brought it up a couple times, that, and just about every process that I've been through, you establish a scoring, you get projects, and then there's ultimately usually some other type of adjustment or ranking criteria that has to be applied that you just maybe didn't anticipate being important or as important as it is at that time. So there's still an opportunity, you know, if the county commission needs to, or if you guys need to discuss, but we will consider this the recommendation to the board at this point as the first step.
And one of the things, the next step, and I hate to be jumping ahead, I'm just eager to get to where we see what the community needs are. The Dewberry has an application that they've used in other communities, right? So as far as I'm concerned, you could, when you send out the revised 1.4, you might just send out the blank, or you don't want to do that yet?
Well, I could right away, I could send out the one that we used in Gulf County.
Just to give you all an idea of what it looks like.
And yours is gonna be very similar, except it's just gonna be replaced with these criteria are just gonna turn into questions. Basically, you know, if we go to, workforce development enhances existing assets, the question will literally be, describe how your project enhances existing assets, and so on and so forth.
Okay,
And then they'll respond to that, and then for each box that they respond under, they'll get a score.
Do you anticipate a second application for treasurer, or are you gonna try to combine it all? Oklahoma County had two applications, one for the committee and one for the treasurer.
There'll definitely be a second application, just not right now.
Treasurer has her own form that is a little more complicated. There's no point wearing applicants out if they don't get a score.
Exactly, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in there that we just don't need to even talk about until the county commission says that it will be part of the mix. Yeah. And then usually our job on the Dewberry side has been to help work with the applicants and fill in those blanks and those gaps at that time should they move on to the next stage.
Eric, I apologize. Now, see, I was thinking of oyster recovery under the natural resource habitat. But yeah, I see what you're talking about, 26% on this scale here. But still, there are other mixes in this 26% that may not all go to oyster recovery. And I'll tell you all. I mean, I have spoken to the SMART committee. I don't know that you'll see any. There may be some individual oyster recovery projects. I really don't expect any in this coming to you all. There might be, but we're really focused. The county's perspective is focusing on the consortium and the state agencies to assist in the oyster recovery because we consider this bay a state resource and we want them to get
And there are a lot of projects potentially they're going to implement several of the criteria.
Yeah, sure. But a big one, I think like a big one, reshelling project, that kind of stuff, I don't expect that to come to you all or to this pod. I expect that to be a consortium.
All right, well, I will be here, but I guess for the benefit of the group, if you would like to leave, I think we are adjourned.
All right, yeah.
Thank you,
I'm
guys.
leaving.
Blame you.